Luke chapter 5, I'm pumped about this sermon and I got a lot of ground to cover. So Luke 5, verse 17, on one of those days as he was teaching, this is something that I hadn't really noticed about this passage before. Pharisees and teachers of the law were sitting there who had come from every village of Galilee and Judea and from Jerusalem. And the power of the Lord was with him, talking about Jesus, to heal. And behold, some men were bringing on a bed a man who was paralyzed. They were seeking to bring him in and lay him before Jesus. But finding no way to bring him in because of the crowd, they went up on the roof and let him down with his bed through the tiles into the midst before Jesus. When he saw their faith, he said, "Man, your sins are forgiven you." And the scribes and the Pharisees began to question because, man, anytime you do anything in life, scribes and Pharisees will always begin to question, so they begin to question here. And they began to say, "Who is this that speaks blasphemies? Who can forgive sins but God alone?" When Jesus perceived their thoughts, he answered them, "Why do you question in your heart? Which is it easier to say, 'Your sins are forgiven you,' or to say, 'Rise and walk'? But that you may know that the Son of Man has authority on earth to forgive sins." So he said to the man who was paralyzed, "I say to you, rise, pick up your bed and go home." Immediately he rose up before them, picked up what he had been lying on, and went home glorifying God. And the amazement seized them all. And they glorified God and were filled with awe, saying, "We have seen extraordinary things today." This is one of my favorite passages in all of the Bible. This story is to me, I read this over and over because it's such a powerful, wonderful, amazing story. And I feel like every time I read it, I miss stuff in it. So I want to ask you a question today. You can raise your hand. I'm not going to ask you what your resolution is, okay? But do you have a New Year's resolution? Does anybody have one? Okay, 2 of you, good. 3 of us, okay, good. There's more of us, okay, good. My wife and I do resolutions. I'm all for resolutions. I think they're important things, and I think they're a great thing to do. And every now and then, some critic will say, "Oh, what are you going to do, 2 weeks?" Well, that's 2 weeks you didn't do the year before. So just tell them to go mind their own business. They can be a Pharisee elsewhere and at least have 2 weeks of you putting in effort, right? I'm all about New Year's resolutions. They're good. They're important. But I think that we could all agree that these men here in this story had something that was a bit more than a resolution. What they had was a mission. They had a mission. Do you go does anybody in here, since only 2 of us had resolutions, do you like college sports? Does anybody? Okay. Oh, there we go. Okay, good. I love college sports. I do. I admit it. I'm a big fan of college sports. The NFL playoffs are on right now, but I'm a Detroit Lions fan. They've never even smelled a playoff, and so I don't even worry about the NFL playoffs. But college football, every now and then, I'm like, oh, man, I enjoy watching it. And I think the older I get and the more I get into structure and I get into systems and processes and I get into what's going on behind the scenes, the more I just enjoy watching the sideline during the game. What happens on the sideline of a college football game on every play fascinates me. I'll show you a picture of a ball boy running on the side of the play. This is Jameis Winston running for a touchdown. And as he's running, this picture became very famous, not because of Jameis Winston, who's running down the sidelines, but if you look just over his shoulder, there's a red-haired man running down the sidelines at full speed. Now, I was able to watch this live, and it was the most incredible thing to watch this ball boy keep up with an NFL quarterback running down the sidelines. And this ball boy became very famous for a while. He became a big deal because the commentators were like, "Look at that guy on the side." They couldn't help but say something as he was just charging down the sidelines. This man is a man on a mission. He has a legitimate mission in life. And his mission in life is to help Florida State win national championships by making sure that any time they need a football, he gets it to them the second they need it. In fact, he became so famous that he was like on TV shows because he had such a mission to make sure that, hey, the football gets to the place it needs to be when it needs to be there. There was another guy, there was a guy who became famous for mopping the floors at Duke basketball games. I don't know if you've ever seen this guy. Here he is. This dude would sprint out onto the court. And he would slide on the court and begin to wipe the floor of the people around him, so much so that he actually made it to the NBA in this job because he was so passionate about making sure that the floor was dry. I mean, this is a man on a mission because he believes that if the floor is dry, his team can win basketball games, and his mission is to win basketball games. I'm fascinated with water boys. They fascinate me. Like, they are so into getting water to the player during the timeout or on the sideline. Like, if you watch the sideline, water boys they're incredibly fun to watch because they will shove that water bottle in that player's face whether they want it or not and just begin to squirt water in their face. I've seen players be like, whoa, dude, stop, because they're so passionate about winning that they make it their mission to hydrate the players that they serve. This is something that I really like about a player that you can probably criticize this guy. My brothers come up with every insult in the world for this guy. I'm a big fan of Tom Brady. Okay, amen. Okay, good. I'm a big fan of Tom Brady, and here's why. Because this man has made it his mission to be the best quarterback that he can be. It is his mission. If you watched him in the draft combine or at the University of Michigan, he looked like a baby gazelle running. Like he actually posts videos of himself being chased by cheetahs and outrunning the cheetahs because he knows he's making fun of himself. But he's not the most athletic quarterback. He's not the most skilled quarterback. He's not the most talented quarterback. But what this man has done is he has made it his mission to make every football throw the best throw that he can make. And what I love watching about him, I can't repeat the words that he says on the sidelines, but I actually enjoy watching him on the sidelines after he makes a mistake. Because if you watch him on the sidelines, and then you watch a really good NFL quarterback on the sidelines, there's a noticeable difference. And that difference is one mistake out of him, and he is furious and screaming and throwing. He's upset because it's his mission to be the best quarterback he can be. And when I think of this story, when I think of these men who are coming to see Jesus, they have a mission. This is a group of men who are dedicated to bringing their friend to Jesus Christ. It is everything to them that their friend encounters Jesus. It is not just an opportunity. It's not just a resolution. It's not just maybe, hey, let's go see if we can get him to Jesus. These men are literally saying, we will tear the roof off a random stranger's house and we will risk the wrath of Pharisees and teachers of the law in order so that our friend can encounter Jesus. They're on a mission for him. And we know this because they had obstacles in their way. Think about these men are sitting, or they're carrying a friend, and there's countless obstacles in their way. There are people who look down on them and judge them. And by the way, if you ever attempt anything for Jesus, people will look down on you and they will judge you and they will criticize you and they will tear you apart. That's just for Jesus. If you try anything in life, this will happen. Somebody said, if you don't want people to criticize, you sell ice cream. And then someone replied, have you ever sold ice cream? All you do is get criticized while you make ice cream. People will oppose you, and there will be obstacles if you live your life on a mission. But these men saw through the obstacles and to the opportunity that Jesus would provide for their friend. And I think this is the big difference between people who live on mission and people who don't. People who live on mission are constantly talking about opportunities, and people who are not living on mission are always telling you about the obstacles in the way. If you want to know if you're living on a mission, ask yourself what you talk about more, problems or opportunities. Hey, this is a problem. Yeah, we all know that's a problem. How do we fix it? That's someone who's living on a mission. They're always looking for the opportunity to accomplish that mission. Missions are very, very, very important. Church in the Wild has a mission. We actually have a mission statement. We say, we will go anywhere to tell everyone about the love of Christ. That's our mission statement. We do not apologize for that mission statement. There are people who are like, hey, that's not my mission statement. That's cool. It doesn't have to be theirs, but that's our church. That's our mission statement. We will do anything and go everywhere to tell anyone about the love of Christ. That's our mission. This year, we have a mission. We are making it a mission to help you take a step towards telling someone that you know and you love about Jesus Christ. That is a mission for us this year. We will go anywhere to help you talk about Jesus to your friends, and we want to help you on your mission. Jesus had a mission. Luke 19:10, for the Son of Man is come to seek and to save that which is lost. That's his mission. And he had faced obstacles, and he faced difficulties, and he overcame them, and he lived on mission. Now, what we know about these men is that they had a mission, and we know very little else about them. We do know they were familiar to the man that they were carrying. Now, the only reason we know this is because I love you all, but you're not going to get in my bedroom and pick me up and carry me in my bed around. Right? That's just not happening. Why? Because I don't know you well enough to let you come into my bedroom and pick me up and carry me around. These men know this man, and they are familiar to him, familiar enough that he's allowing them to carry them around in his bed. And I think this is an important part of this message, because most of us as Christians are like, hey, we want to take the gospel around the world, but we don't even know the name of the neighbor across the street. And God says, I placed you in this church for a reason. At the time that I put you in a reason. And I placed you at your house for a reason. And I placed you around your friends for a reason. And I placed you exactly where I want you to be for a specific reason. And that reason is to reach those who you are familiar with. You don't have to go around the world. Not that you shouldn't go. But I find that a lot of us say we'll go around the world, but we won't go across the street. So why would Jesus trust us to go around the world if we won't even tell our friends and our families about him? God, I'll go anywhere except for to my friend. I'll go anywhere except for to my family members. I'll go anywhere, but I won't tell my neighbor that you exist. They were familiar with him. So often we say to God, I will go around the world for you, but he replies, I simply need you to go across the street. God has placed you specifically where he placed you, when he placed you, and with who he placed you, so that we can live on his mission, which is to seek and to save that which is lost. Second thing we know about them is that they were faceless. We don't know their names. We don't know who these men were. The Bible on purpose just skips over them, and I think this is also important because far too often, we're so worried about ourselves being the one. Hey, I want people to know that it was me who did this. I want people to know that this is me, and I did this, and I did this. And the Bible just says, hey, we don't even know these guys' names, but Jesus worked a miracle through them. And far too often in our world of TV preachers, podcasts, YouTube celebrities, and all this, we get so consumed with, does everybody know that it's me? We get offended. You didn't thank me for what I did? And God says, hey, I'm going to on purpose just leave the names of these men out of the story entirely, because I want everyone to know that it's Jesus who changed this man's life. You know that still, statistically speaking, the very best way for someone to be invited to church is by word of mouth from someone that they already know. If we stop worrying about who's important and who's famous and who's this and who's that, and we just start talking about Christ to people we love, we can change the world. I'll tell you one story. we baptized a guy, and he brought a friend to his baptism, and that friend brought somebody else, and then that other friend became a Christian. No one in the story is famous. No one in the story had a platform that they were speaking on. No one in the story had thousands of followers. They simply said, hey, you should come watch me get baptized. That's it. I'll tell you one more story. We had someone who was at a restaurant. At a restaurant, they invited a waiter. The waiter then invited his wife. The wife then invited their son. And we baptized the entire family by word of mouth by people who don't worry about whether anyone knows who they are or not. There's a pastor who said this way more eloquently than I'm about to, but he said, every Christian should live by the idea that we should give everything away and die broke with no one knowing who we are so that the gospel of Jesus Christ can grow like it has never grown before. And then thirdly, there was 4 of them. There was 4 of them. Each one of them just had to carry one corner. That's it. Just one corner of the bed to get him to Christ. And I think so often we think, well, I got to carry the weight of the world on my shoulders because I'm a Christian. And you'll hear Christians, it's so hard. And I'm like, you ain't got to carry the world. We just got to carry one person to Jesus, and he will change their world. That's the entire gospel. It's not that you have to reach every human being that you've ever met. It's that you've just got to get one person and bring them to Christ daily. Hey, Jesus, will you please save my friend? Will you please help my friend? Will you please help this person's marriage? And daily bring them to Christ, knowing that he can and will change their life. Knowing that he will change everything about them if we simply bring them to him. What I love about this story is that these men said, we're going to bring him to Jesus because we want him healed. And then Jesus said, cool, sorry, bro. I'm also going to change his eternity and his salvation status. And then I'm going to heal him. They brought him to Jesus, and Jesus did so much more than they ever thought or imagined was possible. Because they were willing to set aside fame, and they were willing to set aside being important, and they were willing to say, hey, all that I care about is just that I live on this mission of bringing one person to Christ. One Christian, one person. One person that you're familiar with. Listen, I'm not asking you, you can do this if you want. But I used to have to, in college, I used to have to go preach in bars and on subways and on buses. And it was terrifying and it was crazy. And basically we would throw the door of a building open and be like, hey, I got to say something about Jesus, and just start preaching until they kicked us out. It made me not be afraid of people is what it did. It busted my insecurities about talking about Christ. I'm not asking you to do that. All I'm asking you to do is find someone who you know and who you love. And this year, begin to pray for that person daily. Every day, God, put this person on my heart. Put him on my mind. Let me pray for them. They need you. They need the healing that you can provide. Maybe their relationship needs healing. Maybe their physical health needs healing. Lord knows, half our church is sick right now. Literally half. Maybe they need healing from emotional trauma or distress. Find your one. Find that one person who God has put you around them for a reason. You ever work with that person who's constantly making fun of Christians and ever wonder to yourself, God, why do I have to work with this person? I'll tell you why, because that's your one. That's your one. You have that friend I have a friend who all he does is attack and point out everything wrong with Christians. That's my one. God put me around him for a reason. You have that family member, God put you and he placed you near them to help you live on his mission. And you don't have to carry the weight of the world. You just got to carry one person to Christ each and every day, and he will change their world. So do you live on a mission? What's your mission? Who's your one? Who's the person that you know already? And God is saying right now, hey, you really should be talking to that person about me. Last week, we took a list of names. I think there's about 18 ones that we have right now. So I'm going to ask you all to do you right now is stand to your feet with me. I'm going to ask you if you currently have a one. I'm going to make you a little bit uncomfortable. You're going to have to live on a mission. There's going to be obstacles. There's going to be some things you're going to have to overcome, like being afraid of walking up in front of a couple people and praying. So what I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to ask our prayer team to come up here. If you currently have a one that you placed on our list and you're praying for your one, would you join them up here and would you pray for your one right now? You don't have to pray with the prayer team if you don't prefer, but if you've got a person on your heart who you said, last week I filled out a paper, I filled it out and I got their name and our church is praying for it, our staff prays for it every day, I pray for them every day, our leaders pray for them every day, would you join them up here and just begin to pray for your one? Now, if you did not fill one out last week, we have papers right up here. I'm going to ask you to right now come up and grab one and pray for someone who God has placed on your heart. I know it's uncomfortable, but if you're not willing to take a step to just walk up in front of your friends to pray, you probably won't bring your one. So I'm going to ask you to live on a mission. I'm going to ask you to come and begin to pray for your one right now. And if you don't have a one, to come up, grab a paper, and write the name of your one so that we can begin to pray for them as a church. Because our staff's going to pray for them every day. Our huddles are going to pray for them every day. I'm going to pray for them every day. And we're going to carry them to Christ with you. And we're going to trust that He will change their world. So as we sing, papers are here. If you have a one, come forward and pray. We're going to worship.